Hey, so welcome to Tech Talk Unfiltered. This is Eric from Anuvis Community Services.
And this is Veda, and I'm actually in Southern California this week.
Southern California. What are you doing over there? Just
I'm
visiting
helping my
family?
brother upgrade his phone system. I think my brother is the medical director for Team USA Surfing, and the 2020 Olympics are in LA, and the surfing competition is like a mile or so from Kevin's facility.
Nice.
All the
Where's the actual surf competition going to happen? Which beach?
it's got trestles right here near San Clemente.
Oh,
So
nice.
Trestles Lower. It's a really famous break, and so that's where it's going to be. It's really close to Kevin's facility, so this is going to be ground zero for the surfing competition. So we got to upgrade everything, and so
Nice.
yeah, we're doing that.
Have you ever been to a little town called Cayucas?
Cayucas, yes, but I can't recall
It's
where it
over in
was.
Central California, like San Luis, Santa Barbara area.
Yeah,
And it is one of my favorite. We used to just like, hey, let's pick a place on the map that we can drive to when the kids were young,
yeah,
and we just kind of stopped at Cayucas. It's one of my our favorite places to have been. It's a little tiny surf town with a strip of kind of old town. It's great. It's
I
like the
love
kids still
that.
wear their T-shirt, that
Really?
says Cayucas. Yeah, it's great. It's great. It's a fun place. Hey, so before we get started, let's make sure we thank our grantors for those who make a new Vista possible. Again, we do 200 classes a year for free, covering 150 different topics. We break it down so that our participants are seniors. We want to get them past this kind of competency level and make them, at least comfortable with their technology. And then this kind of sprouts into confidence where they're able to try new things, but they also know that they have support from us. We're there
Absolutely.
3 times a week
Yeah,
at least.
they got a
And they can always come
backstop.
into class and ask a question. And so, if they get in trouble or if they can't figure something out, we're there to help them. We also provide that in-home support as well, so that they can, if they really get in trouble, we can figure it out for them. But they know they can trust us and they know that we're always here. But anyways, our grantors and our partners, Peninsula Healthcare District, Dignity Health, Sequoia Healthcare District, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, El Camino Healthcare District, Forum Charitable Fund, Los Altos Mountain View Community Fund, Rotary of Los Altos Health Trust, Touchpoint Comcast, and the Kiwanis Club of Los Altos.
Yes, and our facility partners, Eschaton Carmichael, the Eschaton Village Carmichael, but we also work with Eschaton's facility in Burlingame with the Truesdale. Then also Milpitas, the city of Milpitas. Then the Peninsula Family Services, the V in Palo Alto, Avenidas Village, Los Altos, the city of Los Altos, and the India Community Center, and of course the Veterans Memorial Senior Center right there in Redwood City.
Yes, where we have a self-service kiosk that's out there and where people can go out and kind of use this touch screen and get their own tech tips there. It's
Yes,
kind of cool, right?
and
It's
I
very
like
cool.
how it's also dovetailing the thing that we're trying to do with the micro learning, right? So people can look up specific skills and get walkthroughs and videos and stuff. So yeah, I'm excited about what the kiosk can help bring to our
Yeah, with a
community.
small with a small nonprofit like we have, it's hard to spend a ton of time on the marketing side as we're always busy delivering or creating content.
Right.
This is kind of a self-service facility that they can go out and just kind of figure out some stuff, how to clean cookies. We just did one on knowing when to use your Mac password and your iCloud password and then email passwords. And that was born out of just experience of working with people. And we talked about it, I think, last podcast. But
Yep.
yeah, it's just a short article. People can understand it. They can see things and they go get it at their own time, which is kind of cool. Hey, so a couple of things. We talked last week. Well, you did the last week of classes.
Right.
And there's a couple of interesting classes that I think we want to talk about. When is and one of them which was a preview to iOS 26.
Right.
We talked about you talked about Amazon and Whole Foods and kind of when they first did that purchase of Whole Foods.
Everybody's
We
going,
don't like
what the
why
heck? Why would
Yeah,
they do
what are
that?
they doing here?
Right.
But it kind of starting to make sense, and we'll talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely.
And then you sent over this video from someone, right?
Right.
That was comparing, Apple and Microsoft, and that was kind of interesting. It was really interesting. And so
Yeah.
we'll
And
talk.
I really think that Microsoft is positioning themselves really well and executing the hell out of it.
Well, it's like a love-hate relationship. We're both old Intel guys. And,
Right.
back in the day when they were the dominant forces of the market, we always had a love-hate relationship. But, under new leadership, they're kind of kicking butt and taking names.
Well, when Nardella first came in, they really embraced the cloud, right? And then as AI came up, and the way they married their cloud and AI is so far ahead of everybody else. It's really incredible. What the future is and how privacy plays out, we don't really know that yet. But I think it's a really interesting argument that that video showed.
Well, if you're nerds like us who read terms and conditions, their terms and conditions and privacy are better than a lot of people's,
Yes,
at least from what we can tell,
right.
and what we can see and what we can read. But anyways, let's go back because you did these classes. Let's talk about iOS 26 and the impact to the consumers. And let me kind of reframe this a little bit. You know, it's always different. I mean, when we first started doing this, people didn't want to upgrade their Mac or didn't want to upgrade their phones for fear of change. And change is hard, and things are just happening so quickly now.
Yes.
The advent of AI with just more power in their chips, being able to do more things. It's just there's so much change that's happening so quickly. But let's talk about iOS 26, the preview of what you said to your class and their reactions.
Right. Well, the hard part with the whole iOS 26 thing is that there's so many changes to the interface, right? That it's making people nervous. They're like, do we really want to go and have this whole interface that's based on the 3D environment being pulled into 2D? And quite frankly, if we look at just the beta releases that's happened over the past 4 months, the, Apple's listening because when it first came out, I hate to say it was very difficult to read some of the things or to understand where to put information because everything was so kind of mixed together because of all these transparency layers and stuff. So it really took them a moment um, to get that right, and they've been iterating and they've been listening to both developers and to end users. Like I don't use the developer beta anymore because I don't have time for that. But I have been using the end user betas and putting in my feedback for things that are working and what aren't. And boy, they've been really responsive.
So, what are some of the highlights and the changes from a user perspective of what we're going to? And let me preface some of my skepticism because we know that we need to upgrade. We know we need to update our operating systems because they're always fixing security flaws. They're always fixing bugs and things like that. But if we're going to go from 18 and jump to 26, there's got to be some significance in the change. Previously, when they would market these changes, they say, "Oh, you've got a brand new emoji," or we can make. You remember that whole commercial series they ran where you could turn yourself into a unicorn or something like that?
Right, you can do the Animoji thing, right?
Yes, I'm like, okay,
Looks
that is
like
of
the
no value to me. It
right.
might be it might be for younger people, right? It might be for the kids who are, oh, this is kind of cool. I can turn myself into a dog. It's like, okay, but from a practical perspective and from a productivity perspective, from a senior user community, perspective, it doesn't do much. So let's list off and let's talk about some of the highlights of
Okay,
26.
well, let's just first talk about how they're naming it. Because iOS 26, I mean, we're on currently what iOS was
18.
it 18, right?
18
And
point something.
yeah, and now what we're jumping to 26? This doesn't make sense. Why are we doing that? Well, what they're really doing is they're changing the nomenclature of their releases to all match each other. because this is one of my frustrations is that, okay, if I'm on iOS 18, well, what Mac release will work with it is so, I can just exchange files and do things like that. The messages will sync to the cloud and all that kind of stuff. Because if they're not on the same level, they don't work consistently. Or if they're not on the correct levels. Well, now everything's going to be the same name. iOS 26, iPad OS 26, Mac OS 26, right? They're all going to be 26. And why the number 26? They're just naming it similar to how the auto industry names the year for the automobile. In August or whatever, August of 2025, they release the 2026 models. And in Apple, in October, when they release their operating system in October of 2025, they're releasing the 2026 model year. So it's iOS 26. So that's how all that's working, which kind of makes sense to me. And culturally, we Americans, that just fits to what we do with cars. So it's not that unfamiliar.
Well, we do that with a lot of things, but that does make sense. It just seems that message hasn't come across as okay. We're going from 18 to 26, and ooh, it's a big change. That's the feeling I got from the marketing messages. It's like, hey, we're going to 26. It's going to be a big change, and I'm like, okay, what's the big change?
Right. But
The
the
changes
biggest
in
change
it's
in
money.
that regard is just that everything's going to have the exact same designation. This
Well,
the number designation.
again, Intel could take a clue, take a key from this because I have no idea what their numbers. They have, Intel Ultra Core 9,
I am
265,
so confused
266.
by their positioning right now. It's like, what? I
It's
don't know what the
crazy.
heck this is. Right.
But at least this makes sense. Hey, if you get over the hump that says, okay, we're just naming it by year, so you know what year you're on,
Right.
and what version you're on. It's kind of like, what year was Monterey, or what year is
Right.
Ventura, or what year is Sonoma,
And I
or
go to
it's like,
Wikipedia to learn
yeah,
that.
and I mean, of course, we know what it is, right? Monterey,
Right.
Catalina, Monterey, Ventura, Sonoma, and then what is it, Sequoia now? And
Yes.
so I think that's actually the right order because we live our lives around that stuff. But I mean, for the most part, it's like, the common user, hey, I'm on High Sierra. It's like, oh, okay, well, you're like 8 years behind. But if
Right.
they're saying,
They're
hey,
not even
I'm on
supporting you anymore.
Right. I'm on Mac 2018 or Mac 18. Oh,
Right.
well, you're 8 years behind. So that totally makes sense.
Right. Yeah, so it finally gets to a point too where we know which devices are and which releases are going to work together fully, right? They're not going to leave certain pieces behind. So yeah,
Now, is
it
the
finally makes
advent of
sense.
their internal on-device AI or the move to AI making significant enough changes where Mac OS 25 won't work as well with iOS 26?
Well,
Or is it more
the big
significant
thing,
changes?
I think what's really enabled all of this underneath is, the Apple's making their own silicon, what they're calling Apple Silicon, right? So now that they're making their own chips, they know that, hey, if we put these features or allow this operating system to work on these chips, well, then all the features should interoperate, right? For example, if I come up and, put my phone head to head with yours, we should be able to exchange our contact information. And it should just happen automatically. But if you have the wrong versions, that won't work, right? They have to be on compatible versions. Well, now, if all of our devices are on that certain version that year, it's going to work. So it's really nice that inherently in the naming that we can just have expectations of what will work and what won't. So I like that part. And
Yeah.
the silicon changes annually and the operating system changes annually. So they just work out that way.
So I'm assuming that when patches come out, it's going to be like 26.1 or 26.1.2 or something like that.
Exactly. And typically there's 6 or 7, dot patches through its annual life. And we don't really recommend people upgrade until dot 3 or dot 4 because you're basically being the guinea pig for Apple, right? It's been
Yeah.
released and their new devices depend on that release, but if you've upgraded your older device to it, it's kind of an experiment, a live experiment, and you're part of it. So if
Y-
you don't want to be an experiment, just wait till the third or fourth revision.
Yeah, I tend to have people update their phone and iPad operating system, not their Mac operating system.
Right.
Just because, I mean, if I had to compare the two operating systems in terms of consistency and reliability, the phone and iPad. I can hear you now, but hold on. I'm gonna go back to
Yeah.
my old mic.
So that's odd. My USB microphone just stopped working in the middle of all
Oh, was
this. I
that
don't know
you?
why. Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
So
me.
I don't know why it just stopped working. Maybe I hit some weird pause button accidentally or something. I don't know. But I just unplugged it. I'm just talking through the computer now.
Let me go back to see. I thought it was me.
Okay.
Go
Where did you lose me? Do you know?
ahead and talk. Can you hear?
Yes. Sorry, you're gonna have to
All
probably
right,
cut
so
this
I'm gonna
out.
go. We're gonna. I'll have to cut that out.
Okay.
So it was more about. So let's just start over. What new features? All right. So let me go back
Okay.
here.
Yeah, so I'll just start at the Apple Intelligence part. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, we a little bit of technical difficulty here. Even us tech guys have problems every now and then. Um, so we kind of lost you, and so I think the question was, are there any new features that are coming out with the 26th release?
Yes, and the biggest there's two that I'm excited about. The first one being the Apple Visual Intelligence. So the thing that Apple's just been trounced on are the ability for the camera to recognize things in our environment, tell us about them, search about them, give us information, put it in context, because it could be anything from, what kind of plant is this or what kind of bug is that to, oh, there's all of these products on the shelf. I can't remember which one had these features. Can you help me shop for it? And it will help you do that. Well, Apple's doing the same thing. Their approach is slightly different, where in, let's say, the Google Pixel world, when you just scan something with a camera, it's automatically letting the live stuff go to the app or to their intelligence and, figure out what's in front of you and then guide you. Whereas Apple, you actually have to do a screenshot. So you kind of snap
Hmm.
that. And then once you have the screenshot, it's on your camera, and now you interact with what's there. You can circle things, you can ask it about it, and you can even ask Siri to analyze it. So it's really interesting the way it's working. Now, it does have a
So
live
that's
mode for
like
you to do,
so.
but it's
Sorry,
not
let me
it's
just.
not as thorough as Google's.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So it's because we've had that capability in Google Lens for a while. And
Correct.
so, and that goes out to the cloud and they go search the internet and they bring back results. Yeah, I hate to say it, but when we clean out my mother-in-law's house or my mom's house and they've got things and we're like, oh, what is this and what's it worth? Right? It goes out and looks at eBay, it looks at whoever
Right.
else, Etsy or whatever. It says, hey, this is how much it's going for. Now that's going out to the Google Cloud. If we use Apple Intelligence, is it going through iCloud or is it going through on
So it will
device?
start in iCloud and be, only within your cloud resources. It may go back to the mothership and get some help, but it's never exposing your data out there, which I really like the way Apple's handling that. Whereas Google, I mean, everything that you're putting out is going to their Apple to their not Apple Intelligence to their intelligent network, right? To Gemini. And Gemini's everything that it's viewing and hearing is going up there. And how that's actually getting used later and how it's being used to market to you, I don't know. And that really bothers me. Whereas in the Apple world, it's your data and they're trying to protect us from that intrusiveness. So that trade-off I think is going to be a really big deal as this really goes down because some of the features that I really like in Gemini are also starting to get really spooky for me and like, wait a minute, how do you know this stuff about me? So,
Yeah, that's actually really true because I've been noticing a lot more advertising for things we've
yes.
talked about or looked for
And
or
it's so
or
accurate. It's like, wait a
oh,
minute, how did you know
it's
this? Yeah,
It is kind of crazy. I mean, it's always a trade-off, right? It's always a trade-off whether or not, hey, you can accept the the placing of the marketing cohort from Google to deliver you advertising or products that you might be looking for or had been looking at
right,
versus, Apple who's a little bit behind
right,
in some ways, but maintains more privacy. You know me, I'm a long time Windows kind of Google guy right now.
right.
Um, but I mean, at some point, I might wind up being an Apple guy.
Well, I really like the integration of hardware and software that Apple's doing. But this is also something that, I think we should kind of let's move off of the iOS 26 for a moment, is where's the future going? And this is where I think Microsoft and Apple are really going to be competing head to head. And I don't know where Google's going to fit in this because their business models are so different. All three of them really have different, business models and business motives.
Yeah,
So in Apple, it's about the integration of hardware and software to create a very rich experience for the user that is also very privacy oriented, right? Um, I love that experience. And Microsoft, they've always been about, well, hold it, we create operating systems and apps that work really, really well together. And now, because of the cloud, we can actually have the cloud start managing this data, and we can start taking the best of breed intelligence features because we didn't develop these ourselves. We can just now make APIs, these bridges that
yeah,
go out and start using these things. And we can kind of control what some of this privacy is going to be because we can control the directionality, right? So I really like what Microsoft's doing there, but where Microsoft, I think, is kicking Apple's butt is because they're able to use third-party best-of-breed stuff, it's forcing them to change data structures, to change, the data paths and do it in new ways. So all of these things just work together. And Apple's really behind on that because they're trying to do it all in-house. They're trying to do it, excuse me, all in their walled garden,
in
so
their
to speak.
walled garden. Yeah,
Yeah,
I look at Google at one end of, and they were pioneers in this in kind of the business marketing world where they realized that people's data was valuable.
right,
And that's kind of one end. And then the other end is Apple, which is, hey, we're gonna keep all your stuff. We're gonna keep maintain your privacy. We're gonna fall behind in some areas because we're not utilizing the whole cloud to power your devices that aren't, your desktops, for example.
right.
But then you insert Microsoft in between the two of them. And this is just how I see it. But then you look at Microsoft, they're like, okay, we can do the cloud really good and really well and we can maintain some of the price. So if I was going to look at, the terms and conditions, privacy statements between Apple, Google, and Microsoft, I think Microsoft fits somewhere in between.
I agree. But where I really think it's interesting where Microsoft is going is using AI to basically abstract features. Okay, so in other words, right now, everything that we do, that we interact with data-wise, we kind of think of it through the lens of an app, an application, or a service, right? If I want to have a spreadsheet, if I want to have my finance thing through Quicken or Intuit, we kind of think of it in terms of I need to get this function done, therefore what app does it for me, right? And then that's what I interact with. What Microsoft is saying, why should you be worried about what app does what part of the calculation or does the feature delivery? Just do what you want to get done, and we'll kind of wire it together through AI
Yeah.
and give you the things in context, for, okay, so you're trying to, let's say you're balancing your checkbook and you notice that there's an anomaly. Well, did that anomaly come through a charge on your credit card? Was it something that was an incorrect entry? It can. it can just go and do that as an agent, right? Looking at all the data and doing these comparisons and walk you through it rather than you having to go delve into all these different areas. Look, open up different apps, open up
Yeah.
different reports.
So you sent
I
over,
love
yeah, you
that.
sent over. Well, there's a couple different things though. Let's talk. You sent over a video, and we both saw it, and it was kind of like, here's Apple's walled garden, here's Microsoft's, investing for the future and kind of looking ahead. Apple's really just kind of iterating off their successful products,
Correct.
where Microsoft is kind of recreating itself in a lot of
Yes.
ways. But there's also a very different model. So we still got to remember Microsoft and Windows still have about 80% of the market share worldwide.
Correct. They have a
And
huge
but
install base.
yeah, and part of that is because it's so much in business.
Right.
You don't see it. Maybe here in the Bay Area, you see a lot of Apple systems in the workplace. But if you're looking at a corporate America, they're all using Windows. They're all
Right.
using that stuff. And so
Oh,
when they
and in
start thinking
fact,
about, go ahead.
corporate America and IT people hate Apple because it's they have to conform to Apple rather than the other way around.
Yes, right. And I mean, I was looking at laptops for some and like the V Pro, right? The V Pro is it was enterprise oriented where IT professionals can help. But here's the thing about just kind of the outlook, right? Even though you have an enterprise kind of business model from Windows or from Microsoft, you got a consumer product on Apple, their approaches to it are so different, right? Again,
Yes.
privacy, consumer oriented, cool products that work together. Now let's expand that into what Microsoft has done about investing in the cloud, investing in AI, and really making kind of an investment into the future. So Copilot is leap years ahead of Apple Intelligence right now.
Very much so.
But in that video, what Microsoft sees happening, that the video that you sent over, what Microsoft sees happening is like AI will be integrated into our lifestyle, into our life workings. So when we say, "Hey, I'm hungry for, Chinese food," it already knows where my favorite Chinese restaurants are. It knows
Yes.
what credit card I want to charge it to. It'll send it out to DoorDash, and you don't even have to tell it anything. It
You're
knows
not
what my
opening those
favorites
different
are.
apps or anything, right?
Right. It's you just, I mean, and if you start integrating it with like voice modules, hey, Copilot, order me some Chinese food for dinner for me and my wife. Okay,
Right.
well, it's going to get the right portions. It's going to give our favorites. It's going to suggest the things I would think it would suggest things. And once you say yeah, and it's going to just go off and do the rest of it. Or the other example they use, hey, I'm taking a trip to Italy. I want to fly coach. I want to go direct and these are kind of the hotels I typically want to stay in, and it's going to take care of it.
Right.
I mean, it's going to
And
book
it will
everything.
know all that background about you. I mean, for one, and it will kind of know your social sphere, right? So it can take
Yep.
all of these influences and make help guide you to some experience that you would really like.
Yeah, and it's incredible what that vision and I mean we talk about AI all the time. We talk in our classes about AI all the time. And we haven't really thought about what's it's going to look like in
Right.
just how it
And
affects us. We see it as like, hey, there's scams. Hey, it helps us write. Hey, it helps us make things. But we haven't really thought of AI as a true assistant.
correct. And that's the thing, when we're starting to give AI and create these AI agents that are cross-discipline, right? It's going to be extremely powerful and not just about convenience, but about richness of experience. So and across so many disciplines, like a food experience, a travel experience, a photography experience. I want to learn how to do a new technique on my motorcycle, right? All
Yeah.
of that stuff. I mean, the AI can understand, well, okay, you have this motorcycle, you're at this skill level. You should be looking at these videos. You should be looking at these trainers. In fact, your friend did this course. Why don't you go talk to them? I would love that kind of assistance.
Yeah. And we're seeing, and in the work environment, we're seeing it already where, I asked, for example, so in Gemini, which is the one that we use a lot because we're Google Shop right now for with what we do. It's like it knows who I'm talking to. It knows what. So if I say, hey, I need some slides on, I don't know, I need some slides on passwords, right?
Right.
It knows who I'm talking about already and who I'm presenting to. And he says, hey, when you talk, he, Gemini, we personalize these things. Gemini knows who I'm talking to, and it'll give me some tips. Hey, make sure you talk slowly, make sure you explain these things closely, and it knows the audience that I'm already presenting to. Then it
Correct.
actually words it in a certain way to help us develop this content. Now, let's talk about that with Microsoft. So that's what Gemini does. If Microsoft knows all this stuff, it's already embedded in the Office apps that we use. And so we
Correct.
can say, hey, Apple, or hey, PowerPoint, we need some slides on passwords. Make it 15 slides and to make them for me. And it's going to populate the whole thing for us.
Yes. And of course that's not going to be a finished thing. It's like anything else, right? It can give us great raw materials though to start with that we can then go and polish, right? So it's like it's going to build the furniture for us, but now we can go and finish it and color it and,
I'll
make sure it
personalize
matches
it.
the environment, right?
Yeah.
Customize the exact way we want.
But like in our area, if it knows that this is the business that we're in, it's gonna get us pretty close to it's gonna get us 90%.
Oh, absolutely. And what I love is that instead of me wasting all of these brain cycles and time cycles to create something that's really not that creative, because I have to go into this logic resource, if you will. The AI bots, the AI agents are going to be really good at handling that for me. So now I can be much more human, much more expressive, much more connecting with what I want to create rather than worrying about, oh, hold it, I have to get it in this format and I have to convert it here. I don't have to worry about any of that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm really looking forward
Well, it's we're gonna have to retrain ourselves.
to.
And I
Yes,
mean, honestly, I mean, so
right,
I think Salesforce came out and said we're not going to hire any more computer engineers
right.
because
Because
AI can
so
write
much,
it
right, so
faster.
much code is being written by AI now.
Yeah. Well,
It
I mean,
makes
just think
sense,
about this. Think about Copilot or AI in a spreadsheet and building data models.
right?
Hey, I need a data model built for this set of data. It's just going to do it.
Right. And like the number one repository for developers that create, software libraries and stuff, Microsoft went out and bought that. And
Yeah.
they developed more tools. They made it so it's more responsive. They made it so that it's much more high availability, more reliability. And they never started charging for it. They left it free and open.
Well,
And
that was the thing that surprised me. I didn't know this when I watched the video, but that Microsoft bought GitHub,
yes.
and
And when they did that, I'm
that's
like, why
crazy
the
to
hell
me.
did they do that? And now it makes perfect sense.
Well,
You
they
know,
bought developers. They got free development.
yes. And they can see that, oh, the best of breed classes, the best of breed software, the best of breed libraries. These are the ones that everybody's using. Why the
Yeah.
heck are we developing this over here? Right?
Yeah.
We
So
can
we
go
should probably explain what GitHub is.
okay,
And
right.
this and probably in the context of Apple
Oh,
as well, because as we know, Apple is all in-house. The
correct.
developers are
And that's
in-house.
and I think this is their weakness,
It could be a
This is
weakness.
yes, this is
They
where I
maintain
think
control
Apple can
over everything. They maintain control over everything, and they have
and
to do
and,
it their way.
and
But
we've seen how this has played out again and
yeah,
again when Microsoft was in-house and they wanted everything to go through Microsoft Server and all this type of stuff. Their products were crud. I mean,
yeah,
Linux came out, and this is where Git came from in GitHub, right? When Linus Torvalds wanted to get all of these great designers and great developers together, he needed a platform to do it. So he created Git. And this is where this repository where you can check in all of your code. Then they started doing things like, well, now that you're checking in your code, why don't we develop things that can actually check your code? Then
yep,
we can also make it so that, oh, we've got revision control. So now that if we cut in and say, oh, we want to use the library that's this new, what things do we need to deprecate? What things do we need to move forward? All of that started happening. Like I don't know if you remember Yum, Yellow Dog Update Manager and all that type of stuff. Those types of things came through Git because they
Yep.
needed to develop these things and make sure everybody was on the right version and it would all work or interoperate. And Git is the king of this.
Yeah. So let's keep going with the definition here. So you got the walled garden in Apple.
Yes,
You have GitHub, which is really kind of
it's
the
open source,
baseline of open source,
right?
right?
It is
And so
not closed at all.
no. And
Everything
so
that
let's talk
goes in
about
there
open
is
source. And this
free.
and you and I have this argument all the time about open source versus, the walled garden.
Correct.
Open source is like we put code out there in, say, GitHub. Other developers basically hack at it
Correct.
and try to make it see where the weaknesses are.
Well, they
And
actually
then,
just push it, right? They just
yeah,
use it and go, "Oh, it's got a weakness here," and then they fix
yeah,
it.
right. And then you get free, and then basically you're getting free developers working on
Yes,
your code
and the
to make
best
it
ones in
better.
the world.
And that's and the only caveat is that, it's open source for anybody to use.
Correct. If you
And
you if
so
you're going to
that's
use
that's
it,
the whole
then
thing. And
correct.
so when Microsoft bought GitHub, they got access to all these developers looking at code, improving it, finding weaknesses in it, and they didn't have to pay a dime for any of these developers to develop.
And then what else did they buy that they could overlay on that? LinkedIn.
Yes. Oh God.
I'm like, oh my gosh, this is freaking brilliant because not only now do we see, what people are committing to these repositories, right? Now they can also see, well, which people are kind of leading the groups. Where do they go professionally? What companies do they start together? Who are these loose affiliations? And it's all there in LinkedIn. So it's
Yes.
it's really amazing what they have gleaned from that and
It's a
how
little devious at the same time. I
I,
mean,
I I would think it was devious if they were trying to wall it off and close it, but when they're just making connections like that and adding fuel to the fire, I think it's brilliant.
it's brilliant, but it's also, like I said, now they know who knows who, they know where the access and what everybody's skills are. It's a little different. It's different from, say, Google. I think it's more internal to Microsoft, but they know where everybody's at and they know what the skills are and they know who is connected to. So in that way, I feel it's a little devious. But from a business perspective, it's great because then you can figure out all the different algorithms that go along with LinkedIn and the social environment, plus the open source stuff and the development pieces, and it just all kind of meshes together for them.
Right. And I would, just to tie up the things here on iOS, 26, right? I mean, iOS 26 does have a lot of incremental new features, like they've cleaned up the camera and stuff like that. But quite frankly, I don't see a lot of compelling reasons to go to iOS 26, except that I'm being forced to do so, right?
Yeah.
In order to use all of these new features and stuff like that. So I think it's nice, but it's not like, wow, I'm going to go wait in line for 2 days to go get this new phone and new. It's not like that anymore. It's just a
Well, I
very
don't know.
incremental movement.
The iPhone 17 Air looks pretty cool.
The 17 Air, yeah,
Yeah.
I like what they're doing there, and the way they're managing heat and all that kind of stuff is pretty incredible.
Well, it's
But
like
again,
half the
it's
size.
an
It's half the width
incremental
of,
build.
yeah, but it's a half the width of, I mean, just from the build of it's half the width. It's like paper thin,
Yes.
which is kind of cool. Now, I'll probably break it in the first time I used it if I was going to have it, but
Right.
it is kind of cool. At least they're trying to do something. But that was part of that message of that video was, Microsoft is foundationally changing where Apple's just kind of iterating off their existing products.
Correct. And what I really like where Apple's going because they're looking at this augmented reality and 3D environment is the whole importance of gestures, especially if we want our computers to keep up with us and what we are really thinking about, what kind of answer it's giving us. If it understood our gestures, our responsive just in our face, because our faces are so expressive, it would be way ahead of the game. And in iOS 26, the face gesture thing that they're doing, the accessibility features, is I thought it was, science fiction when I first looked at
Hmm.
it. I'm like, this is amazing. I mean, you don't have to touch a keyboard and you can just talk and do some gestures with your face and make it do all the commands. I was like, wow, this is really,
That's what they've gleaned off of what is it, their $3,500 Visual Pro product or
yes,
whatever that is,
exactly.
right?
Where,
Because you see guys doing this all the time, like waving their hands and doing
yeah,
clicking and
exactly.
stuff, looking kind of weird in the park, but that's okay.
Right.
But that's, I mean, everything iterates off itself. But you wonder why they never made that to be a full consumer product, I don't think. But
Right.
it's if they integrate it into the iPhone, that would be pretty cool.
And I think this is where you and I then ended up, so that if we just close off the iOS 26, discussion here, but where this whole AI thing's going and where we're really impressed with the efforts that Microsoft is making is you know, just taking AI now to that next level where it really is interacting with us in a much more human-like manner, where no longer are we adapting to the machine, but the machine is really adapting to us. And I think that is a huge leap. And seeing that, gestures and understanding our responses and, oh, he wrinkled his brow there. He either doesn't understand or he doesn't agree. These little things I have to go back and verify. Is this what you really wanted, right?
Yeah.
Um, I this is
It
where it's going.
is it's cool, yet kind of concerning at the same time because it's gonna wrap around our entirety of our lives.
Yes. In good ways and bad, like anything, right? Anything that's really powerful has the power to do, you know, great things for good and great things for evil. I mean,
It's
that's
just
just
it's
the way it is.
just we
But
we as humans have to adapt and we have to maintain our creativity and not have the dependency on
well, here's the
on the
hard part
machine learning
is
to make us more creative.
when we've looked at our human institutions, right? When we looked at, let's say, legal institutions are very, very high. What's that word I'm looking for? They've got a lot of it's not momentum, but they don't move easily, right? They're kind of
They're
uh,
tankers.
what is it?
They're like tanker ships. They take a
Yes,
long time to
exactly.
turn.
To steer them just takes a lot more energy and a lot of time, right? Um, then there's culture. Culture adapts a little faster, but it doesn't move really, really quickly, right? And
Right.
especially when we start mixing different cultures, right? The melting pot like we have here in America, it takes a few generations for them to truly integrate. And you know, and I love that about America, and I hope we really get back to this where we have some agreement about where we want to go, and we can do it hand in hand as a melting pot rather than all of these, polar arguments that are make no sense to me.
If history
You
shows anything, some things, the cream rises to the top.
yes, and
And so we'll see some of that. Right now, I mean, feels like the 2000s in a lot
it
of
does,
ways,
right? It really
you
does
know.
feel that way, like the whole PC and the internet revolution again.
Yeah, I mean, I remember what was that restaurant over there by Intel, Bex or something, or Bucks or something like whatever it was, where people
Yes,
were making
Burks.
Burks were
Yes.
making deals on the back of napkins.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
now
You
it
could
feels kind of the
fund
same
things
way.
like crazy.
Yeah, kind of feels the same way.
And
Well,
then
that's
the
exciting.
the one that moves the quickest is industry and technology, right?
Yeah.
So all these things have to interplay, and we need to be aware that these institutions move at different paces. So I really want, them to move slow, medium, fast. But
Yep.
it doesn't mean that one's more right than the other. We actually need all three of them. So hopefully
We do.
we get to
And we,
there.
we also need government to move quicker on the legal side of things too. They're
On
always
some
they're
things,
always years behind.
at the same time, that some things need to be really argued over time because we don't fully understand it.
Well, that's
We'll
true.
see.
But I'm just saying that they're usually generations behind.
Oh, no, it's absolutely true. And that's by definition.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good conversation we've had tonight. You know, we tend to talk a lot about Apple, and it was good to have a conversation about, something else as well, which was Microsoft. Um, yeah, so no, it's the future is bright and the future is changing, and this kind of underscores kind of what our mission is, that we're sitting here kind of vetting everything and trying everything and trying to figure out where things work and things don't work. And also we have to troubleshoot a lot of this stuff. And
Oh my
so,
gosh, do we?
and this is where people come out and they actually ask us and they ask our opinions of these things. And, we wind up using everything. And I think that's why Google gets confused about us because we're trying everything all
Right.
the time. And so, but I mean, we have to explore, and the world's going to change regardless if we don't. And so, if we're gonna thrive with technology, or at least be comfortable with technology, we have to be able to be, resources for our people and give it, I mean, people ask us for our opinions, and that's kind of what we're doing here, is just kind of looking forward and seeing what's coming and trying to see how it fits into our lives and our daily living.
Yes.
And that's kind of what a new Vista is all about.
Yep. And let us go and do the experiments and, fall on our face and stuff because we know how to recover, right? So don't go
Well,
out
we
and
know
do
how
it.
to limit things while we're
Yes.
exploring
We
too.
we
And
understand the risk a lot better.
yeah, and I mean, I don't expect people to take the kind of the safety things like we do because we're trying different things and setting things off, but that's because we're taking kind of confirmed, or I shouldn't say confirmed. We're taking kind of measured risks when we play with new things.
Right. And we know how to limit our downside.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So what do we got coming up in September? I can't believe we're already in the middle of
I
September.
know.
So we
Um,
we
well,
got
our
video door
next podcast
cameras.
too, I would like
Yeah.
to, talk about since, this AI thing, the experience that we can get shopping at Amazon and at Whole Foods. So, we'll talk about that next time.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have a full slate of classes coming up in September, and hopefully, if anybody wants to see us, you go to www. .amvcs.org. I'm sorry, www.amvcs.org. And you can always join a class, right? People can always join a class.
Yeah,
And anyways, so that's it for today. I'll make sure I cut that out.
sure.
That's it for today. I'm gonna have to do some editing on this one. Let's sign off our music again. We'll thank our sponsors and grantors. Um, they make a new Vista Community Services possible. Come check out our kiosk over here in Redwood City at the Veterans Memorial Center. People can take a look at the self-service help center for technology. But anyways, we can talk to you next week. Have come up with a new topic. Like you said, we'll talk about Amazon and Whole Foods. But let me play us off as we go. Make sure if you like this episode, go ahead and follow us. We're available on Spotify podcasts as well as Apple Podcasts at this point. All right.
All right.
Anything else,
Cheers.
Veda?
Nope.
All
Thanks,
right.
Eric. Great
Have
talking
a
with you.
good night.